Randy McKee here of Soccer 605, and I'm here again with Coach Dale Weiler, the Director of Competitive at the Dakota Alliance Soccer Club. Thanks, Dale, for being with us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You know, there's been a lot of talk recently about recreational and competitive leagues starting up around the state, and we know that you've been working quite a while on, you know, getting a league put together and operating a league, and we sure wanted to get over here and talk to you about what you have going on. So why don't you just kind of explain the scenario?
So, you know, a few years ago, Dakota Alliance used to host the Matchup League. And essentially it was, you know, in the fall and spring, the competitive director at the time, Steve, would reach out to clubs and say, hey, are you interested in coming into Sioux Falls? We've got the space for it. Referees, we can give you some games. So it came down to giving more opportunities to kids to playing games, which is still the vision now. And about a year ago, you know, me and Frank sat down and said, hey, can we kind of change that name to the South Dakota Champions League, and can we have, you know, like the backing of the state essentially. We figured if, you know, the South Dakota State Soccer Association could help put more structure to it and kind of build it in a sense because of their name and whatnot. And like I was telling you before, most states have an association, like MYSA, for example. I mean, yeah, they have a lot more clubs, but, you know, they're under that association, and then it just provides a little bit more legitimacy to it. And we figured that if we went down that route of at least being the avenue, so if Dakota Alliance could be the avenue of getting these games and having them be in different locations like Brookings and Yankton like we did last spring, that it'll just fuel more and we'll get more games for local kids. And that, in the end, like I said, local competition is what we don't have, and that's what we're trying to do in the long run, is provide opportunities to those teams that, you know, can't travel to Kansas City every single weekend to get something, and maybe the competition isn't appropriate there. They can stay here and maybe play some teams from, you know, Brookings or even North Dakota, or Worthington Soccer Club is one that's had some interest playing in some games. So just reaching out to places like that and getting better competition, more appropriate competition.
You know, Sioux Falls is really a perfect position on I-29, I-90 to be able to get clubs from Nebraska, Iowa, North Dakota, Minnesota coming in here. So, you know, what we're dealing with here mostly then, and what we have been, is mostly working with the select or competitive teams, right?
Yep. Yeah, and the tough thing is everyone knows this. I mean, every team is different. I've told you that before. I mean, the U16 boys versus the 12 boys, I mean, it's night and day.
Yeah.
But it comes down to, are there teams, are there organizations that, you know, have similar situations than ours, right? So I'll use like Northwest Iowa, for example. They have kind of some disparity in their age groups, and they're a club that's a similar size anyway on the competitive side a bit. They have, you know, share like a similar vision. Can we match up our teams with them, for example, to get that appropriate competition? And it's hard because, you know, some maybe higher level teams in our club, they probably wouldn't participate in the South Dakota Champions League, or at least we wouldn't give them 12 games, let's say, because the competition's not right for them. But for teams like, gosh, I'll use the U11 girls, maybe 13 girls this past spring, they were able to get, I think, 8 games in those 3 Champions League weekends that we had, and they were all good, you know, in terms of competition, and it was a good positive thing for them. So I think it's just dependent on ability and then trying to match them up with appropriate teams. So,
you know, way back when I coached at Rushmore, that was one of the complaints we always had, was that we couldn't get Sioux Falls teams to come out and play it. So one day I'm sitting down and talking to some of the guys, and, you know, Kerry Shaw, I think, put it just as well as it could have been put. He goes, look, I can drive 2.5 hours and be in Omaha and go down there and get a whipping, which is kind of what I'm looking for from my team. But I can drive out to your place and beat you 6-0.
Yeah.
And spend 10 or 11 hours on the road, and he said, I'm not looking for that kind of competition. I want somebody who can beat me, or at least will really compete hard against me. So I think that's kind of, you know, one of the scenarios we're looking at, even up and down the interstates.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, Tri-City is a club too that in North Dakota that's trying to get more involved in a league type of setting. I mean, there's not much up there for them. They've expressed quite a bit of interest to at least come down on a weekend and get some games, and they did that last year as well. It's really come down to, you know, Dakota Alliance reaching out to teams and organizations and asking kind of what their needs are. What are they looking to do? And if we can be, like I said, like an avenue for them to get games or steer them in the right direction anyway of an appropriate league for them, then that's what we're here for, I suppose. So
yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, we've all had teams in MRL.
Yeah.
And done that traveling. I've had a couple good schedules, and I've had a couple horrible. Where we would be driving to Green Bay, Wisconsin to play games. And,
yeah, it's crazy.
So what you're doing here just makes so much more sense than that because, honestly, you can find the same quality of competition within 4 hours.
Right.
We used to be able to within 13 hours.
Yeah, that's totally true. And we're trying to do a little bit of a balancing act too, because there hasn't been an established league. Our teams get games by traveling, right? So, us going to Kansas City one weekend and Omaha another weekend and Des Moines another weekend, right? We'd like to have that be like once a month. So if you look at our fall schedule, I'll use the 13 boys. They're going to go to Elkhorn this weekend, and that'll be kind of their first event of the year. And then they'll have some time to just train, and they'll participate in the friendly weekend that we have here. And then the next month comes along, they get an event, and then maybe they're going to Des Moines, I don't know, for Iowa Rush or something like that. And then they'll come back, and they'll get some more local competition through the Champions League, for example. So we try to supplement it, maybe an event a month, and then if we can give you some more local competition and train on top of it, then we're kind of hitting all the areas. Because we still believe, player development comes in training.
Yeah.
We don't want to overload every single weekend you have this opportunity to play, because then that might be the case and they're playing 6-7 games, in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We think that might be almost too much,
Well, I think in the soccer playing countries, they would tell you that's too much.
Right.
They say that the kids should have one good game a week.
There you go.
And at least 3 trainings.
And that's really the model of U.S. soccer. And,
Yeah.
too, and I look at stuff online all the time about, Tab Ramos and whatnot and what he's doing with the youth system, and we're trying to, in some way, replicate the ideas anyway that they have. So
That makes a lot of sense. So do you have, as you're putting this next set of games together,
Correct.
The next level of the league, are you talking to a lot of teams who are very favorable about doing that?
Yeah, I've sent a lot of emails out to people. That's always tough. People are always being pulled in different directions, and I get that. Something a little bit different that's actually happened this fall is that we're getting more from outside of kind of the Sioux Falls or Brookings kind of area right in there. Like I said, that first weekend on the 23rd, 24th, we have teams from Iowa and Nebraska and Minnesota to kind of kick off just maybe you can call it the kickoff of the Champions League if you want, but it's more about the start of the competitive season and just bringing in, kind of multiple organizations to just kind of kickstart that. Reaching out. I've reached out to a lot. It's tough, like I said. I think the future of the league is probably going to really begin in the spring. Something I've noticed is that the fall is always tough. You can only tap into U11 and U14 essentially. Maybe a U10, or academy group can participate in some of it. But believe it or not, in the spring we had more like 15 and 16-year-old groups that were looking for more local games, which was kind of surprising to me.
Yeah.
So now, when you cut those out of it, it's a little bit different, and with the recreational season picking up and whatnot as well. But yeah, I think things look good. Our weekends are the 23rd, 24th, that first one, and then the 6th, 7th of September, and the 27th, 28th of September right now that we're kind of plugging anyway. That should go up on the state site hopefully at the end of the week.
Okay.
And we can get things rolling in terms of, promoting it and reaching out to clubs and
We'll
get some
link on
interest.
that.
Yeah, and you guys too.
All the weekends, at least at this point, are planned in Sioux Falls?
They are, yep. And like the spring, it was perfect in the spring. It truly was, just because we were able to, Brookings wanted it, and we were like, absolutely, let's host it there. That'd be great. They got a great complex, right? In Yankton too, they had one as well. I think the tougher piece this fall is that the number of clubs is it's not as large. So I'm more than willing to have it be at different places. There's no issue with that at all. That needs to happen. I think here in Sioux Falls, there's some ease with it because of our facilities and that we can use.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's not a DASC thing necessarily, right? Wherever, right, that we can bring teams in to further grow. Soccer, in the end, that's what we're trying to do. So
if I'm sitting in Fargo or
Sure.
Bismarck or Omaha or Aberdeen or Watertown, Yankton, what can I do to help get this thing rolling?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is there needs to be more unity in a sense, right? I mean, imagine this office, for example, or this space, if we all came together and kind of shared a vision about, what we maybe need as an organization, whether it's Watertown or Aberdeen or whoever. And then we kind of, drew out, hey, this is the needs of the clubs in our state. And if the state, could lead something like that, I think that'd be a positive thing. That might be, a few months down the road, like get through this kind of fall so we can really have something more structured and organized. But I don't think there's enough of us, and I say us, I guess the soccer community, that knows what are the needs of this one, what are the needs of this one, and how can all of us serve each other, right? I mean, that should be maybe the end game from a state level is what are the needs of our organizations and how can we best,
Maybe we better find that out.
Yeah, exactly. Another interview, right?
Well, Dale,
Yeah.
I don't know if you have anything else more to add, but it's been a tremendous amount of information. I'm really glad to see that you're stepping up and doing this.
Yeah, no, it's been, and I just want to reiterate too, it's not all about what we're doing here. Yeah, hosting it, it's easy, right, to have, because we have the facilities for it. I want it to be known that we really want to just reach out to as much as possible, and still give that opportunity to kids that, aren't getting games against appropriate, competition. That's what we need to continue to strive to do. And I think if, in the long run, all of us are on a similar page, imagine something a few years down the road where every organization is getting, 10 to 15 games per season, more locally. You can't beat that.
Makes a lot of
if
sense.
It makes, if it's appropriate for them.
Well, until that happens, somebody has to do the work. And,
Yeah.
And,
it's all good.
really happy to see you're the one stepping up, and I'm
Appreciate
happy
that.
to see your club donating your work to do it.
Yeah,
That's
it's
a
got to
great
happen. Sacrifice, man. You have to do stuff like that if you're in it for the right reasons, right? Which is to, build a passion for the game and kids and give them opportunity. You got to sacrifice a little bit, and I think you do this work initially up front. The end result should be something more positive and structured in the state. So yeah,
I'm sure it will be.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot, Dale.
I appreciate it, Randy. Thank you. Yep.
Thank you for watching Soccer 605.
Getting recruited by college coaches is more difficult every year. There are thousands of other athletes competing for your position. MyPlayerPage.com is the best place for athletes to showcase their personal and player information. Check us out today at MyPlayerPage.com. Any sport, any athlete, any state, any city, champions all